So I'm Mike with Seabreeze Heating and Air. Product that we strongly believe in is the Bosch heat pump. They call it an 18 SEER. All of your systems are only going to come in 2, 3, 4, and 5 ton models. There are no half-ton sizes, and they only go between 600 square foot, or they're only about 600 square foot per ton. So you can size a system off of the home square footage by that property. If you're slightly under, it's always better with the Bosch system to be slightly over than under, for the specific reason it has intelligent adaptive dehumidification. So regardless if it's slightly oversized, it's still going to take care of the dehumidification problem with no issue whatsoever. Now, one thing about the Bosch that's really good is the price point, and the reason being is it's not considered a fully communicating system. A fully communicating system is going to require a specific thermostat that is going to be in the range of $700 to $1,000 most of the time. So our Heil product, which also sells inverter technology, is about $748 for an observer thermostat. With a Bosch, I can take a thermostat from Home Depot and run it the same way as the Bosch thermostat that comes with the system, a Microsoft Glass, a Honeywell product of any way, shape, or form. Wi-Fi has no issues with pairing to it, but with the system, Bosch just does not have a full communicating. So in that respect, it's not going to be as expensive as like a Carrier or a Trane that requires a specific thermostat to run that inverter system. Now, most of the time when we go out and somebody says, oh, well, somebody gave us a 17.5 SEER price and it's a Carrier and it's better than yours, oh, that's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, that technology at their 17.5 SEER marker is not the inverter yet. That's how they can beat us on some of the prices. Our prices, they're going to start 17.5 SEER with the inverter. Odd numbers, 3 and 5 ton, come out of the box 17.5 SEER on paper. 2 and 4 tons will come 18.5 SEER on paper. There is no way to change that. They've also been recorded to go up to 21 SEER, but they cannot get a straight line to be able to document that. There has to be a straight line run for so many hours to be able to give them a certain SEER rating that they can put on paper from the state of Florida. Like I said, no half sizes. Even numbers are going to be 18.5 SEER, 2 and 4, and the odd numbers are going to be 17.5. Now, with the system, there's only a 2, 3, 4, and 5 ton model. That's all of the air handlers they offer. For the outdoors, there's only 2. There's a 2, 3 ton model, and there's a 4, 5 ton model. Simply, the first one comes as a 3 ton. We flip a dip switch, and we're able to switch it to a 2 ton. Also, with the 5 ton model, comes 5 ton out of the box. We'll be able to switch it to a 4 ton. Also, the system is the only one that in the market that I'm aware of that has a powder coat finish. It's not regular metal. It's not going to decay on the beach side like most of the others. You're also going to have anodized coils on the inside and the out for salt resistance, and also there is a finish on the indoor coil to help bacteria not to stick. Bronze Glow in St. Augustine does a similar method in which they say, for instance, we run into dirty sock syndrome where over a period of time bacteria grows inside of a coil. Well, we then have to, you can't warranty them. We have to send them to them, about $400 to $600. They will clean them, dip them in the same material, and then send them back to us. These come out of the box like that. With the powder coat cabinet, the anodized finished on the inside and the outside coil, and the bacteria not able to grow on that inside is a great selling feature to us, especially on beachside, not having a system going to rust away in 5 years and spending that much money on it. They're able to get their return at a later date, opposed to the system being gone and decrepit in 5 to 6 years. Also, system has a microchannel coil, helps it disperse cooling and heating better. Efficiency is going to be up there. The inside coil, like I said, also is not going to help or have the bacteria sticking as much as a 14 or 15 SEER generic unit that we have. Also, the system is great. There's a couple of them on the market. All the inverter technology in our system is going to start up at 0.5 to a half an amp, or half an amp in general. They call it no lights dimming. So essentially you get into a home, system starts up while you're talking to them. It's essentially the starting amps pulling from that compressor of that specific unit. The Bosch will not allow that to happen. As long as there's a ground wire hooked up throughout the whole way, there's no lights going to dim, and it's going to start up at a half an amp every single time. Now, on a 2 or a 3 ton model, the paperwork in front of you is going to tell you an 18 amp RLA, which means running load amperage. Usually that is the fastest that system can run, 18 amps. Once you do not touch that thermostat anymore and it's set respectively to 75 degrees and you don't touch it for 5 days and you just leave it there, you leave for work, it doesn't matter. You just want to leave it at the same temperature. That system's only going to run 40% for the rest of its life. It will never get above 50% again, and it's only going to run probably anywhere from 10 to 12 amps just on the system itself. Also, respectively, starting up at a half an amp. So right there is going to be a drastic savings. They're calling for about 30 to 40% on the electric bill, depending on how somebody runs their home, how you run your air conditioner, dryer, everything else that's going to draw a lot of power. Also, on the 4 5-ton model, you're looking at an RLA of 24 amps, which will probably be in the realm of 16 to 17 amps full running, or at 40%. But at full running load amps, you're looking at about 24 amps. Decibel ratings are a major thing on the Bosch. It's one thing they did take into account. The decibel ratings on the indoor unit fully ramped up, 46. The outdoor unit, you're looking at full running capacity, 77 decibels, and once it gets to 40% and runs where like you're not going to touch it, it's only going to run at 50 decibels for the rest of its life. Very quiet. Put them right under a window, put them right next to an outdoor space, nobody's going to hear it. Same technology is used in the mini splits. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the mini split, but it's all inverter technology. All mini splits start at 16 SEER out of the box. Good way to cool a garage or something along the lines of it, but they're just a really energy efficient system. Also with the system, you're going to get a 10-year parts warranty out of the box, 1-year labor warranty from us. System comes equipped with a Mitsubishi compressor. There is not another system on the market that comes with a Mitsubishi compressor. The market has been bought out by Train Carrier and everyone else throughout the industry, Copeland, LG, and Rotor Lock compressors. They all have contracts with all their different suppliers. Bosch is the only one that uses the Mitsubishi variable speed compressor. That system, or the compressor itself, has, I think, 300 and something speeds it can run in, all put together. Going back to what I said previously about the mini splits have the same Mitsubishi compressor technology. So it's a very, very nice system, very, very quiet. Easily serviced, and the diagnosis by the outdoor board makes it extremely easy for us to change parts in these things. Most of the inverter technology between Train and Carrier actually have pigtails that they hook up into a laptop or some kind of device that they give them to help them diagnose. Ours, we simply go off of a display on the outside, and through the pamphlet and the information that comes with the install guide, anybody with a little bit of AC knowledge behind them can actually diagnose this, change a temperature sensor out, or do whatever it calls for. Another good thing about this is, say for instance the system runs out of refrigerant, or starts running low on refrigerant, we develop a leak. It's not documented on paper, but we call it a limp mode. The valves are actually going to open up to, or close down to about 40%, restrict themselves in order to give that customer cooling until there's not a lick of refrigerant left in there, at which time the temperature sensors and the pressure switches will actually shut that system down and not allow it to run. But it will try and try and try until it cannot give any more. They actually had in the class an outdoor unit running right in front of us, and they put a full box over top of the outdoor unit. That in about 30 seconds should blow the head pressure sky high, shut the system down, and not allow it to run. So if any debris was to cover this unit, or say for instance a hurricane, heavy winds were to surround it, most systems will go off on high head pressure because they cannot breathe. They suck in through the coils and they blow out the top. The system is actually made to breathe through the bottom third of the coil all the way around if such issue was to happen. So it's almost like a foolproof unit, as I would say. Also, 2 tax credits on the unit, depending on where you're at, going to be about 300 to 350 is what we've seen off of the AHRI. Every single time we print off an AHRI, it's going to tell us if there's an available tax credit for that match rating. Most of them that we've seen have been 300 to 350. As we've gone over before, once this system is caught back up, the installation's done 2 days later, the system's only going to run at a quarter capacity for the rest of its life. Unless you have a lot of people over, you're opening doors, you have a lot of construction going on inside the home, humidity's entering. The only time the system, if not touched, was not able to get, or say for instance, if you had a lot of people at your home and this system ran for more than 25 minutes, it would actually pick up and know that the dehumidification needs to come on and run the system in high speed until it catches back up. That's another property of the intelligent adaptive dehumidification. TXV valves on the inside are all coated in a rubberized undercoat, so all the capillary tubes that feed that TXV are very, very closed off from the rest of the unit. Most of the time we have issues where capillary tubes, our small pieces of copper, will rub together and eventually develop a leak over a period of time. Nobody else is doing it but Bosch. They're actually wrapping each one of those capillary tubes in a rubberized undercoat. It's just maintenance and 100% looking out for the homeowner in the future. Outdoor unit has an electronic EEV valve, electronic expansion valve. It's for mainly, most systems out there are not going to have a great EER rating or a C rating in the heating mode. You're going to be in between probably 7 to 8.5 most of the time. The Bosch unit's going to be about a 9.5. That is not something that the state of Florida really looks at for the heating mode, because the only other thing more efficient than a heat pump is just going to be gas or oil. So mainly most of the units out there are just not efficient in the heat mode. The Bosch is just slightly higher than the rest. Also too, with the outdoor board, it has a lot of properties that need to be out of humidity. The whole outdoor unit where the electrical is has a gasket all around the outside, which is the only unit that I'm aware of that will not allow humidity to enter there and allow any of those electrical components to be damaged over a specific amount of time. Like I said before, most of the time when people go out and they sell a 17.5 or an 18.5 SEER system, we've seen in the past that they're not inverter technology. That is one thing, you know, they're going to get a better price on. If they can get a 17.5 SEER system and it's not an inverter, then obviously it's going to be cheaper right out of the box. But the key thing is to be slightly higher than obviously that 17.5 model, but it's going to get the inverter technology with the soft start and running at such a low amperage. It's unbeatable. The payback's going to be within a couple years. Also too, when sizing the indoor units, we only have 3 indoor sizes for the electric strip heaters. A 30 amp, a 45, and a 60. Those are your kW sizes for any of the backup electric strip heaters, which we'll size off of. 30 is going to be for a 5 kW, 45 is going to be for a 7 kW, 10 kW is going to be rated at 60 amps. Good thing is it's only having 2 outdoor units. The ratings for the amperage to size and make sure that the right electrical breaker is in for the outdoor unit is either a 40 or a 60. The 40 is going to be with the 2 3-ton model, and the 60 amp is going to be with the 4 5-ton. That's just for the ratings of the city. It's nothing to do with how that system is going to run. It's just a requirement on the nameplate for the Bosch logo. Like I said before, it was a German-made product. It is now switched to the People's Republic of China. It doesn't technically have to be disclosed for the simple fact that it is put together here in America. So the parts do come from the People's Republic of China. Also, too, we have noticed in the past, APCO air purifiers and duct cleanings are a good thing to sell with the Bosch system. You're starting off at a loss. Say, for instance, if we were to go sell any size system and your ductwork is dirty, you're now putting everything previous in that ductwork in that system, restricting that coil. That system's never going to run to the capability it's meant to be. You know, we usually sell duct cleanings for $35 a drop. Most houses you're going to be in between $400 to $600 for a full good duct cleaning. That is separating ductwork, cleaning mixing boxes, cleaning triangles, going through the whole duct system in general, and sanitizing at the very end. We have been known to actually give away a duct cleaning if it's going to sell a unit, depending on how many drops there are in the home. If there's 30 drops or it's a humongous house, you know, we're going to have to add something in. But it's a good thing that we do sell with those. The APCO air purifiers are something good as well. These specific air purifiers come with a lifetime parts warranty, and it's the only one out there that does. It's a commercial grade product. It's actually not a residential product, but it's been known to work wonders in the residential field. It actually works on a sort of hydrogen peroxide that it emits to scrub the air, has a built-in UV light inside of it, and the bulb requirements are to replace it every 2 years for about $130 a piece. Usually, and the homeowner can actually do that themselves if they would like. Any other maintenance on that there is no other maintenance on it. Other than that, that's pretty much it that I have on all the stuff. Any questions?
I'll go over pricing right quick. And then we're going to do the installation guide. One thing about Mike, you know, this Bosch air conditioner is just off the charts. That thing's amazing for what it does. All by itself, this air conditioner trumps everything else you can possibly install as far as an air conditioner on the energy savings.
Also,
I have it marked on your sheet. I always downplay it, underestimate, over-deliver. I've got it marked on our sheet as a 30% reduction. But this thing really gets about 45.
Also, too, every single time we go out to a homeowner's house, whether we're selling a 14 SEER or all the way up to an 18 or 20 SEER, that system, you could put a Goodman system that is 14 SEER and make it last just as long as, or what I'm trying to get at is the installation is 90% of how that system is going to run. So it doesn't matter what you install as long as the installation is there, the vacuum is done correctly, the system is installed properly, not on undersized ductwork and with all of the parameters met. It's going to be the best bet. Anything that is not going to be sufficient for the Bosch is only going to restrict it. So essentially you put in a $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 system and you have one undersized duct line which feeds the whole house. You've just taken that 30% savings and thrown it right out the door. You've made the customer uncomfortable because now you're going to have humidity problems. It's always better. If you have a question, I have no problem answering it. There are a million duct charts on the internet. So 600 square foot per ton. You can actually get a CFM chart that goes right off that, or call me. I'll tell you the size that needs to come directly off of that plenum. In which case, you take a quick trip into the attic, you take a tape measure and go right across it, and you'll be able to see exactly what you got. Very simple, very easy. But small stuff like that, we actually will eat that on the day of the job rather than let it run like that, because it's just going to cause for us to come back. And fan motors and modules going out, humidity problems with the homeowner, starting off on a bad foot is something that we just do not like to do. So just to make sure everything's met.
Now, with it being able to downsize itself to where if it starts running low on Freon, is there an indicator light on that so a customer won't even know that it's actually doing that? Or?
Essentially, the temperature will creep up.
Okay.
And other than that, some of the Wi-Fi thermostats out there, say for instance, if they're not home or if they're out of town, will actually send an indication to them that the system's not met temperature in an hour and a half or so. Those are options that we do like to sell if we're like on the fence with a unit. The Bosch thermostat doesn't do it, but I believe the Honeywell T6 Wi-Fi does send an alert. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it is a nice feature.
I think the Nest does too.
That's another thing too. People who want the Nest, anything that is called a smart thermostat, which is going to indicate motion as you walk by, is not the best system for a Bosch. For the simple fact, they put themselves into a vacation mode when they don't sense motion for however long. When that happens, system stays off. When the system stays off, we now have humidity problems. So now that the temperature is 75 degrees like it always has, but the humidity is rose, customers wonder why is it uncomfortable in here. It's happened several times with these Nest thermostats. You can turn the smart option off, but paying for the Nest thermostat and turning the smart option off is like, it's null and void. Honeywell is something we stand behind 110%. Mainly what we're selling now is the Bosch thermostat. Bosch has their own that goes with this system. Not specifically, it can go to any system whatsoever. It's just nice to keep it all the exact same. But other than that, everything's done code related, hurricane rated pads, everything tied down correctly for the city. Any other questions?
Okay, so you're putting the Bosch thermostat with these Bosch units.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the same price point as what the Honeywell T6 Wi-Fi used to be, and it's, to have that third thing of Bosch on the wall matching everything just looks a little bit better to us.
And it's Wi-Fi connected.
Wi-Fi connected, programmable, and it does have the dehumidification to hook up to that unit.
So with this unit, if a customer goes on vacation, technically they shouldn't change their thermostat. They should just let it run the way it runs.
That's a preference, to be honest with you. Usually most of the time, if they're leaving for more than 3 days, I tell everyone to put their thermostat to 80 degrees, let the humidity ride like it normally does. By paper, a 14 SEER or a 15 SEER with dehumidification, you can allow your thermostat to go up to 82 or 83 degrees and still hold 55% relative humidity. Laminate floors, issues along the lines of, a lot of wood inside the home, that is your maximum, 82 to 83 degrees. System's older, I don't suggest going anywhere over 78 degrees most of the time. You don't want to come home to wood warping and everything else along the lines.
And then energy saving, as far as SEER rating versus the inverter versus variable speed, because we always hear SEER rating. Is there a difference between our Bosch at 17.5 versus something with the inverter drive versus something that doesn't have the inverter drive for energy conservation?
I don't understand exactly.
In other words, our Bosch at 17.5 SEER versus another unit that doesn't have a
Carrier.
Carrier that doesn't have the inverter drive.
The hard start.
Okay, the hard start.
You're
Because it's constantly turning off and on.
a system here, a system anywhere that does not have an inverter built into it is going to start anywhere from 40 to 60 amps. It is for a split second, but it plays a major role in electricity. If you ever look at a graph of electricity, there'll be a spike every single time that thing turns on, and it's drastic. But it's such a split second, it won't kick a breaker. It won't do anything along the lines of that. The Bosch, like I said, starts up at a half an amp every time. Your outdoor fan's going to start first, getting that air moving through the coil, giving that compressor that best chance to start up at the lowest amperage possible. Other than that, everything else with a contactor built into the outdoor unit, that compressor is going to start up drastically higher.
Gotcha.
That's why if you ever sit next to an outdoor unit and you hear that plunger going in the contactor and it goes, that's that compressor trying its damnedest to get going. The Bosch, like I said, has a fourth winding built in that's going to help that process build it up. So every single time that system starts up, it's going to ramp that compressor up with the fan. Once it realizes where it's supposed to be, it's going to have its cutoff usually at 40% once it's left alone. And when it backs back down and it shuts off, it's actually going to ramp itself back down. Blower wheel, outdoor fan motor, and the compressor. So there is no hard start, no hard stop.
Gotcha.
System's pretty much a smart unit.
And you mentioned we could use a smaller, customer use a smaller inverter, sorry, generator to run.
Yes, it's never, supposed to be something, oh, go ahead and take all your wiring apart, homeowner,
Right.
Go ahead and wire nut all your stuff into the generator. But if you did have some sort of transfer switch that the homeowner had an electrician do, a 3,500 watt generator has no problem running a 5-ton unit. Because like I said, if you're not asking for a high demand, the amperage is never going to be there once it starts running. You're only going to be about 15, 16 amps, 40%. And if you can keep increments of 2 until you get comfortable, let the system shut off to increments of 2, you can run a 5-ton on a 3,500 watt generator and cool that house perfectly fine through a hurricane, any kind of shape or form like that.
Amazing.
There are a few other ones, like I said, Train and Carrier have this similar technology, but their thermostat is one that has to go with that system, which is also going to drive that price up. The Bosch is pretty damn comparable most of the time as far as price point. We get a lot of reviews on how good the price was compared to something. We just beat a customer out in Flagler Beach by $3,000 on an inverter technology, same SEER rating, install, 10-year parts warranty, 1-year labor. The only thing different was the exact equipment we were putting in. So, other than that, you run into a 3.5-ton model. By the model number on an outdoor unit on your next call, most of the time we're jumping to a 4-ton. We don't usually like to go under. I don't want that system to work double as hard to be able to catch back up. The system's already going to draw the right amount of humidity out. Like I said, with the intelligent adaptive dehumidification. That's where the problem occurs. Say, for instance, if you put an oversized system, the system doesn't run long enough in order to draw that dehumidification out. This Bosch will, even being slightly a 1/2 ton oversized. There are no 1/2 ton sizes with it.
Cools home too quick for the
It will run it at a slower speed regardless, so it's going to pull that dehumidification out. Most systems, if they're oversized by 1/2 ton or a full ton, they're going to kick on and off within 5 minutes. They're going to run, they're going to cool that house quickly, but they're not going to draw that dehumidification out of the home, which is the problem. So somebody says, my house is 75 degrees, says it's 75 degrees, and I'm extremely uncomfortable.
Right.
Also, too, you'll have black spots all over the ceiling, mold growing in the grills. Then you start getting into a big dilemma. And then we end up having to rip that system out. The customer has to spend another $4,000 to $6,000, put a new one in, and then get their ductwork cleaned, and then get a mold test, and insurance has to get involved. It's just never something we really like to do.
And. It just keeps getting more expensive.
They call it air conditioning, not air cooling.
You do it right the first time, and you make sure duct sizes, refrigerant piping, everything else is done correctly, there's nothing going to be wrong with this system. It's almost foolproof. Now, another thing I wanted to go over, too, if anyone's familiar with suction and liquid lines on heating and cooling products like all of our air conditioners, we have a mandatory size of copper. If it's not, we have to replace it. There's no getting by on one of these units with undersized copper. It just will not happen. It's going to decrease the efficiency. It's eventually going to cause a problem with that compressor trying to wind up. You're not going to get that 40% savings because now that compressor feels restricted in the sort of pumping the refrigerant around the circuit because the piping is too small. Next time, I can bring in several pieces of copper, 3/4, or 3/8, 3/4, and 7/8 are the only ones we're going to run into in residential. Your liquid line is always going to be a 3/8 copper tubing, and anything 2-3 ton model is going to be 3/4 suction. Anything 4-5 ton model is going to be 7/8. They have actually a couple different I don't know what they're called, but things you can put around the piping in order to size it. They sell them at Home Depot in order to just make sure that we're correct. If you're ever unaware of it and you say, you know, the system's 30 years old, we're just going to go ahead and replace the line set. You're looking at $350 cost to be able to run a new line set overhead, galvanized cover on the outside, and we call it a day. One thing I did not go over and I completely forgot is the system, the Bosch system, is the only one, the only unit out there that has a voltage range. You can all go all the way from 208 volts all the way up to 244 volts respectively. So we did a job for a True Value building, a commercial building that was 208 three-phase. We converted to be able to do 240 volt breakers outside. We were only getting 211 volts or 212 volts. We do it on single phase for the 240. We were able to save that customer probably $20,000. Anything three-phase power is ungodly expensive, and you're not going to get the efficiency. Anything three-phase, the highest you're going is about 14.5 SEER. So that specific building, we were able to push towards that, and the savings are drastically going to be different than what anybody else can offer. Most inverter technology has a way closer range to run off of. Bosch system, I saw on that pamphlet right there, is like 208 to 240 or something along the lines up there.
When you say 40% savings, you mean 40% on the bill or 40% on the air conditioning?
30 to 40% savings on the electric bill. Once the system is left alone, the system will only run at 40% capacity for the rest of its life. Unless you have people over, you want to jack down that temperature because the heat load inside off all those people's, you know, making the system run a little harder. Say, for instance, you have 20 or 30 people over for New Year's and you have your thermostat set to 75. The system's having a hard time catching back up because it knows it's only supposed to run at 40%. Like I said before, once the system runs for a solid 25 minutes, it's going to pick up that it's not cooling the home like it usually has. It's actually going to run that system full speed to catch back up. So it's all a part of the system and the board outside. But by time or by temperature will be an indication of how that thing ramps up or how the dehumidification gets brought in. Any other questions?
Yeah, the Bosch unit, it's a game changer. Compared to benchmark, I've been doing air conditioners for over 20 years and various, I was a general contractor for many years. We didn't have this technology back when I was building houses.
It's a newer product. A lot of people haven't heard of it. And to be honest with you, if they type in Bosch on the internet, for some reason they do see prices on the outdoor units. One thing that we always tell people is anything that you find on the internet with a price, even if it's a brand we sell or don't, none of those systems are going to come with a parts warranty, even though they say they do. We've had a couple landlords and stuff in the past that have bought Goodman units off of the internet from the same places these Bosches are coming from. Compressor dies in 3 years. The distributor, like say for instance, if we were to get a Bosch off the internet or a customer was, we put it in, we disclose to them that we can't tell you the parts warranty. We had one go out. We take it back to Baker. They recognize that serial number and that it did not come from the distributor. It come from somewhere else. So think about a $700 board or a $1,300 compressor. That money on the backside, if done improperly or something freakishly happens, a lightning strike, is going to be a lot of money out of the pocket. You know, I mean, the warranty is something we strongly believe in. Baker Distributing stands behind their stuff, no doubt about it. We haven't had an issue with any of the parts. We actually, in 3 years, just had our first Bosch actually have an issue. And it was just a temperature sensor on the outdoor unit become out of range. Once it did become out of range, that system would ramp up drastically and it would never run at its savings it was supposed to. Temperature, pressure switches, pressure transducers on the outside are going to be all how that system runs. If anything becomes out of range, it's actually going to be a notification on that outdoor board. Customer will not know, but they will know off of their power bill, or if something feels different inside the home, they live there, they're going to know how their normal living conditions are. We come there, we'll be able to see directly on that board, even if that system is running what seems to be okay, that there's a malfunction in a specific temperature sensor. We can have that sensor in the same day. We can go ahead and replace it and everything will be fine. Other than that, we haven't had one leak in a coil, knock on wood. Service calls have been minimal. The compressors are strong. The warranty behind them is strong. So, all in all, it's one of the best systems, high efficiency we've ever installed. Usually everyone tries to stay away from that because of the service point, you know, having the people to be able to repair it. Are the parts going to be there quickly? That's a lot of the homeowners asking us, you know, we go with this system, you know, are we going to have an issue with this thing down the road for getting parts? Are we going to have an issue with this thing running if we have a power outage? Everything will reboot perfectly fine. There are fuses into the outdoor board that will save that board if a power or a lightning strike, depending on if it's indirect or direct, will kick those 5-amp fuses out and hopefully not damage that board. We have had one board change as well. That was something out of the box freakishly. But other than that, we haven't had any issues with them. Nice system all the way around. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm going to briefly run down through the pricing. You can take that off, I'll take that off. I'm going to briefly go down through the pricing. The easiest way to price this thing out. I've given everybody a par sheet, and I will email this par sheet out to you again tonight. You're going to see this paperwork.
Did you ever get the text message I
Everybody's
sent
gonna
you?
get the same paperwork tonight, whether you're
I
a
sent
brand
you a
new
text
agent
message
with
with
us,
the
or
price on
you've
the
been
two
with us
systems,
for
and then what I was going
6
to add
months, a
in
year,
for.
no matter what, we're going to have certain documents
What do
we
you
send
send
out
out?
to you. If anything I
Remember,
send
if it's
out,
a
I say
text,
supersedes,
I'll look
and
and
it'll
see.
be a date on it. I have par pricing, meaning don't go below it. On my Bosch units, I consistently pack $1,000 on each one of them, and it fits. It works well. I have my par pricing set so it'll take care of the line sets, oversized ducting that's needed, anything that needs to be added. It's set there, plus it counts for my finance chop. I never write par. You're going to find this out as my day goes on. This is for you guys. If you're writing par, you're making money, but I never write par. I've never wrote a par deal in my life. I've always packed it in. I've always made sure that I made money, my company made money, and we all went away happy. We're going to learn this as we go through our day. I'm going to cut this just a little short because I got my installation guy coming right behind us, but we'll get more in depth into this, and I'll explain how we're going to do our pricing from here on out, because plain and simple, I want to put more money in y'all's pockets. And if you're writing it below par, it can happen, but it requires a phone call. If you write a deal that's below par on any item, when it comes across the desk, we're going to make a phone call and find out why. It will adjust your commissions, more than likely. Once in a while, we'll have to go to the mat to get a customer. All of us have been in front of a lead that we're the second or the fifth or the ninth guy through the door. If you're willing to take a cut, we're willing to take a cut. We'll write that deal. We'll make a few $100 each and go right on down the road.
Also, too, Ron,
Yes.
if you want to let them know, as far as the duct cleaning, the prices I gave you and the APCO air purifiers, if one has to be given away in order to get a sale, I mean, it is an extra 4 hours added onto the job. But be my guest, as long as it's not like a drastic difference.
And that's why I like this guy.
I mean, if you get into a house with 20 to 30 drops, you're talking about $500 to $700 to clean their ducts. Most people don't even know that duct cleaning has to be done every 5 to 8 years. So, I don't know if anybody's familiar with opening up a return duct or being able to look at just at a return grill inside the home. Most of them are covered in anything and everything you can imagine. Just by the respective purposes of looking at that or taking that grill down and taking a picture of the ductwork, you're going to be able to tell them 100%, the duct cleaning is going to be necessary in here. We'll give it to you, it's going to cost us $700. We'll give it to you for $200. We'll give it to you for free if it comes down to it. It's just manual labor. We're not out any money. Essentially, it's just labor. You're looking at probably 4 to 6 hours to do a thorough duct cleaning, which is taking all the grills down, sanitizing all the duct lines, running our machine through each one. But any of that crap not taken out is going to go right through that brand new system, and then it's going to, be null and void a year down the road once all that crap ends up back in the bottom of that evaporator coil.
And exactly what he's talking about is it's mold remediation in the ductwork.
And doing a duct cleaning is always more necessary than putting an APCO air light in. The APCO is not going to take care of that stuff already in there. That stuff needs to come out, and then they can do the APCO light, or at least just do the duct cleaning. That's always
So
the
if we just
suggestion.
add $300 to the price that you're selling at, and always include the duct cleaning no matter what.
Depends on how many ducts there are.
Well,
I'd be okay with
Roughly?
that. I really,
other than average,
I would really be okay with
2,500
that.
square foot house.
Just as long to cover the guy that's going to be doing them, or the two guys. But just keep in mind, the system change out in a duct cleaning is going to be every bit of 8 hours, if not more.
Right.
Even on a smaller home. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
can't
did
fly
the
through
duct
everything
cleaning
and make
for a
it.
minute.
Huh?
I did the duct cleaning thing for a minute. 15 years ago until I pulled my Mac out.
And if they ever want any
Oh, my.
information on it, we do not use a rotor brush. Rotor brushes have been known to damage the ductwork when they spin inside there. It's just not good. It's a hard bristle brush. We use a reverse skipper ball and compressed air. Most of the time, the supply ducts are all that needs, and then for the returns, we use a duct whip, which is we use PEX piping 100 foot, and we actually have clear tubes that whip around inside of the ductwork to be able to get those larger returns, 14, 16, 18, 20-inch ducts. It's the same stuff in the same way they do any commercial application for duct cleaning. So we've had great luck with it, and I have pictures of mounds of stuff we pulled out of each home. And the customers are like, are you kidding me?
Right.
But they don't know. It needs to be done every 5 to 8 years, and if it's not, you're breathing all of that in. Dirtiest place inside of the world, or just about is the inside of anyone's home. Doesn't matter. It's recycled. It's recycled air. It's never a fresh air pulled in like a commercial building. So everything in your living environment, you are constantly recycling.
Right.
So getting all that stuff out of the ductwork is 110%.
Do we have pricing on here for the filtration and the?
Yep.
Yeah, if
Okay.
it's not on there, Ron has it all.
Like I said, I have everything on there, but I will update it at the end of today. You'll have a superseded sheet. You'll have add-ons on this one. The
And then-
hardcore prices are there.
Heil prices he has too. If they want to step down a little bit and just go to a 15 SEER unit, any of our Heil stuff is the exact same system as a Carrier. Unfortunately, nobody really knows this, but Watsco Incorporated owns both Baker Distributing and Carrier Enterprises. It's the same equipment, logoed with a different sticker. It's not
Really?
close, it is.
Yeah.
The compressors are exactly the same, the boards, the coils, they're all manufactured in the same location, and it is the same
Different
stuff.
label.
Also, our labor prices and all the Heil stuff is very, very good. So we're going to outbeat any Carrier known out there unless somebody's been in business for 40 years and they're getting crazy tier pricing. But all in all, the Heil's great. And if they wanted to step down to something to get a sell out the door, if, say, for instance, they can't afford anything else, we have a Grand Air product that has all the same parts and pieces in it. Just the cabinet is made with a little bit of a thinner metal, which is all in all, just going to bring that tariff pricing down. We've had like 4 or 5 price increases this year on all of our stuff due to that. So the Grand Air is a good way to go if worst comes to worst. And we do have a couple financing options if that goes, south with y'all that we can pick up and figure out how we'll do that down the road.
And that brings us to the reason we do this. We're a solar and energy saving product company. I want the energy saving products put in first to get the bill down, solar the rest of it. But a lot of the leads we're getting, and I transition 100% of my air conditioning leads. I walk in the home, I need to see your power bill, what's wrong with your AC unit, I do my walk around, I take my pictures, serial numbers, air handler, unit, what's the problem? Okay, how much is your power bill? So now I got it sitting on the table. I do my proposal with the Bosch. If I'm in a house that's mediocre, I've got the ability of stepping it down to something different. But now I got a power bill and a Bosch unit that's going to knock 35% off their electric bill. Guess where I'm going next? What if I could get you to zero for just a little more money? Then you start looking at the hot water heater, attic insulation, and other products to get that bill down to zero. And so far, out of my 5 leads, I've transitioned every single one of them.